Welcome to Chatting the Pictures. My name is Cara Finnegan, and I'm a writer, teacher, and historian of photography.
And I'm Michael Shaw. I'm a writer, a psychologist, and also publisher of Reading the Pictures.
While many countries begin to move on, this Canadian COVID-19 portrait is a vivid reminder that the pandemic is not yet over.
This photo was taken by Rachel Blakey on Instagram. She notes that the finish line is in sight in the second year of the pandemic, and she's looking forward to getting back to normal.
The pandemic has produced a number of what is known as photo elicitation projects. These are projects where professional photographers and everyday people alike are invited to make and share photos of their everyday life during the pandemic. And then these get curated into sites like the Canada COVID portrait site, which is the space where I first saw this image. So I want to think about this image definitely in that context, that the photographer's really inviting us to think about where we are in the pandemic at this moment and what kind of coming out of the pandemic, but not being entirely out of it, might look like.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm inclined, maybe for the first time, to talk about pandemics instead of the pandemic. For a while, Canada was lagging behind other countries in the number of vaccinations. And I wonder if the varying pace of countries recovering has something and maybe a lot to do with this photograph. Once it was kind of a collective experience and the whole world was going through it equally, there was, I think, a much more uniform view of the crisis that we were seeing in the photography. Take, for example, the Mads Nissen World Press Photo of the Year and so many other touching scenes that specifically involve hugs and kisses through windows and plastic. And in this case, I'm not sure if these clothes exactly fit right on these people, if it's not something that involves some costuming. The bags look like ordinary grocery or takeout bags. That also has kind of a really common or kind of pedestrian vibe to it. And I'm wondering if there isn't some irony or even cynicism.
Yeah, it's maybe perky cynicism, right? You've got this vivid color palette with the yellow on the bag and the yellow clothing and the punctuating yellow on the tie. And yeah, and then you've got this sort of strange portrait backdrop that looks like the kind of portrait that, you would sit for your headshot at the office or a school picture. And then, right, the big juxtaposition, you've got people with bags on their heads. So it's goofy. It reads as improvisational in a really clever way. The plastic bag over the head also really speaks of suffocation, doesn't it? It suggests that maybe people are at the end of their rope, that they're really losing it, right? And yet, then we also have this attempt, however plasticized, at physical contact and affection. So, the whole photo really, it feels to me like the photographer is not just asking, when will we get back to normal? But she's asking, who are we? And when is when, right? And what is normal anyway?